Hi guys, and welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be a quick unboxing, unbagging and review of the new Dark Age and Medieval market stall by Victrix, which is marketed for the Pillage wargame, but obviously is probably going to find a lot of other uses amongst many war games. Victrix are kind enough to send this over to me so I could take a look at it. So I figured what we'd do, have a look at the sprues, build some of it up, paint some of it up, and see what the thing is like. So the blurb for the market stall is very simple. The idea is this will let you recreate the hustle and bustle of a Dark Age or medieval marketplace on the tabletop, perfect for adding atmosphere to the villages. And there's quite a lot in here. So if we flip this over and just have a little look at the bag here. So we get 2 market stalls, 4 large tables, 4 medium tables, 2 small benches, 4 stools, 2 poultry baskets, 2 chickens, 2 cooking fires, 2 beehives, 2 furnaces, 4 bread baskets, 4 food platters, 24 various bowls, jugs, cups and serving dishes, 11 barrels and 26 sacks. That's quite a lot of stuff. So the best thing to do is probably just to get this open and start taking a look at it. Why can't I ever open things? Okay, so we have some basic instructions here on how to put together the stalls, the benches and the tables, the cooking fire. So basically anything that really needs assemblies. Let's just put that to one side and let's have a look at the frames themselves. So this is one of the main market stall frames. So let's take a look at it here. So on here, well, they weren't lying. So we've got a lot of cups and jugs and a chicken. I really like this. This is something that I saw on the preview when Victrix put it out, and I love this because I do like a cheese board, and to see the cheese cut there with the knife sticking out the top, I think that's a really nice touch. Over here we've got a tray with some fish in it, more meats with the knife sticking in the top, stools here, some baskets here, so these must be the poultry baskets, and this is obviously all part of the market stall. I really like this down here because this is actually a really nice recreation of a medieval furnace, well, certainly an early medieval furnace or an early medieval oven. I've actually dug quite a lot of these in my day job, and here's the little base for it here. Obviously, if you're using this for pillage, that's going to be a great source for ignition, for getting some of the flaming brands so you can then set fire to things. Over here we have part of the beehives by the look of it, and you can also put together the bits for the cooking pots. So you get 2 of these, which is going to be quite cool because you're going to be able to set up 2 marketplaces, and also, yeah, you've got double the amount of stuff. All right, let's put those to one side. Every marketplace is going to need sacks, and there's definitely a lot on here. Some of them look like, yep, you can just sort of drape them over each other to create piles of sacks. And then some of them are obviously freestanding as well. You've got these ones here where you've got sort of the 2 halves. So this will make a really nice set of loot. And then you can use these for almost anything but barrels. Plenty of barrels. These are all double-sided. You've got, I'll say double-sided, 2 parts, sorry. You've got the 2 sides here to create some large ones and some small ones as well to give you a complete scene. Right, so that was just a quick look at the sprues. I really think that the best way to deal with this is going to be to build it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do a sort of a how to put this together. It looks fairly straightforward, and most of this is just going to be a case of unclipping everything from the sprue. So I'm going to get started. What I'm going to do is go away, get everything stuck together, create all the pieces, and then I'll come back to you once I've got it all assembled and we can have a look at how it's gone together. Right, so here we are, and holy moly, there is a lot of stuff on those sprues. You don't actually appreciate how much until you start clipping it all off. To give you an idea, this took me about 90 minutes to clip all this off and assemble. That's not because it's particularly complicated, it's just that there is so much stuff. So if we have a look at the larger pieces here, you've got the market stall. Now this comes in 4 pieces. You have the top of the awning, the back, and then you have the side plates here. Now these actually fit very nicely onto these little plugs that are here, which make that a nice secure structure. So that's very cool. So you've got 2 of those. Obviously you get 1 on each sprue. You then have 4 large tables. So let me just grab a 28mm figure actually. Right, here's Cerdic, the Saxon. So you can see that they sit at a decent level there next to our Saxon. I'm going to keep him nearby for future use. But you get 4 of these large tables. You then have 4 medium tables. And then you've got 2 small benches, which are these little ones just here. With these as well, you get 2 stools on each sprue. So you've got a total of 4 of those. Now, hang on, these are quite... Oh, there we go. Small. There we are. Now, some of what is here, I think I am going to have to base to make things easier. But certain things, like the barrels and the market stalls, I'm not going to bother. Okay, so let's not worry too much about the tables for a moment. Let's move those just out of the way. Let's have a look at the barrels. Now, you get quite a few of these. You get 11 in total, so you get 1 sprue of these. So that makes 2 of these large, long barrels here. And then you have a mix of sort of medium to sort of small size ones. And the details on these are really nice. Now, these came in 2 halves, so you just, well, press these together and stick them in place with some plastic glue. So these would be quite good on their own, so I'll probably keep all of these separate because these can be put down as loot markers or as terrain features in a number of games. Now, the sacks that you can see here, there are 26 of these. Now, these come in, some of them come in 2 halves, some of them, like this one here, which I really like, which is sort of just slouched over, are single pieces. Again, I will probably leave the majority of these unbased. These are my favorites, which are sort of the ones that are sort of slapped one on top of the other. So these 3 you have to glue together separately. Though you don't have to follow the instructions you have on here. You could leave them separate. You could even use these and have them hanging off the edge of a table or something like that. So we have a whole selection of sacks, but now let's have a look at some of the really nice details. Here is the oven, the furnace. Now, you can tell that they've done some research here, and I think that shows in all of this set. There's clearly some research that's gone on, and they've used actual archaeological examples to create this. And I really like that. Obviously, you know, I'm all for historical accuracy, but they do seem to have gone just a bit of an extra mile just to give it, you know, the look of the time period they're going for, which in this case is the early medieval. But here is the furnace, and you get 2 of these. I really like that you can see sort of like cracks in the clay wall, which is really cool. And you can't see it here because I've actually glued this down, but you do actually get details all the way back on this base. So if you wanted to, you could make this removable. These are the beehives. Very, very straightforward. Now, I can see that what I'm probably going to do is a lot of this material here, which I'm about to show you, I will end up sticking to these tables so they actually look like they're being used. Now, this is probably my favorite on the whole sprue. This is my favorite detail. I love the knife and the cheese. I know I mentioned it earlier, but with the bread and the ale in that whole sort of platter of food, I think that's fantastic. I love that. Then you've also got another one here, which has got a joint of meat, which also has a knife in it. Just incredible details. Really nice stuff. So on top of those, you have a whole selection of jugs, beakers, drinking vessels, things to eat from. Now these I think will look brilliant stuck to the tables, as scattered across the tables like people are actually eating. Now, I'm going to keep some tables free because I want to put some market goods on them, but I think that'll look good, and then you can create little scenes. You have this really nice sort of cooking fire with a cooking pot over the top of it. This one was sort of spindly to put together. You have to create the tripod here, and this sort of hanging bit is already attached to this, but you have to glue the pot to the hanging bit, and then you've got this sort of brazier that goes underneath it like so. So these I will probably put on a 25mm base, and then we can have those. So those are points of ignition as well if you're using this for pillage. You have these baskets of food here, so just awesome stuff. And then the good thing is these aren't particularly huge, so you could easily either put these on the base of a model like this or just next to it to show that they've got it. It's not going to get in the way too much. Now, the only thing that I haven't assembled is the poultry basket, and that's because there's a chicken to go inside it. So as you can see, you get the two halves of the basket here, and they just go together very simply like that. However, there is the chicken to go inside it, so I need to paint this first, paint my chicken, glue the chicken into one side, and then do it up like that, and then it can sit on a table or something. So really pleased with all of this. I don't really know where I'm going to start. I think the first thing I'm going to do is select some of the tables that I'm going to stick some of these cups and pots and all of that to, just to create individual pieces. I reckon I'll probably leave 2 of the large tables free so I can put other things on them. And then across these, you know, what I'll probably do is, you know, I might put sort of, you know, say that cheese and that there, maybe get hold of, you know, a couple of just jugs of ale, and maybe a bit of food like that, and stick those on like that. And then the bench, you know, get some of these smaller benches and have those ready. I'm not too sure about what to do with these stools, because I'm worried, because the legs are quite thin. So I'm wondering if for the small benches, where did I put those? There they are. If maybe I base these with these little benches next to them, and then I can put some jugs on those, and I create a little 25mm base, although I have got some 40mm ones I could put down, just to create little elements that I can obviously just put on the battlefield. I'm going to have a play around with all of this. It's probably going to take me a little while to paint all this, so I will come back and I will film an update and a close to the video once I've painted it all, and I can show you the complete market set all done, and then just show you how it fits in. Okay, so here we are. I've been working away in the background on these, and I've got the whole set done, ready to be used in our next game. I've sort of broken these down into a few sort of separate sections. So here we're going to look at the market stalls and the tables, then we'll have a look at some of the barrels and the sacks and a few of the other bits and bobs. Then I'll get everything out together so you can see the whole lot, and basically see what you get in that set. Now, I painted the majority of these with contrast paints, and then adding details where I needed. I just felt that that would be the quickest way, but I have done sort of extra levels of dry brushing and extra details where I feel it's necessary. And overall, I'm really pleased with the look. Okay, so here we have the market stall. Now, something I should say about the market stall is it is remarkably similar to some of the images that you will see in the Medieval Chronicles. So I do think that Victrix and the sculptor and the designer, they've done some good work here in their historical sort of research, and I'll bring that up again a little bit later on with some other things. But this was just done with a blood red army painter speed paint, and then by adding bits of buff to that mix and then some dry brushing, I just tried to get that sort of faded look, like it's been out for a while. I did think about sort of making it striped, but in the end I've just gone for what I think would be just quite, you know, utilitarian common colours. So we have this one, which is red, and the other one, which is obviously just a nice beige. Okay, so here we have the first of this is the one of the medium tables, and as you can see, I've tried to paint the foodstuffs in varying colours. Getting the right sort of shade for my cheese was fairly difficult. In the end, I used ice yellow with just a tiny bit of the army painter yellow speed paint in it, just to give it sort of a slightly more rich colour. And then what I've also done is looked at some examples, funny enough, at work, of sort of Norman drinking vessels and Saxon drinking vessels, and then I've alternated some of the colours because I quite like sort of a bit of colour on the tabletop, and I thought this would be a good place to do that. You could easily get away with just painting all of these various shades of brown, but hopefully these will stand out. On the large table here, for the meat, I just used a flesh contrast paint for the for the meat itself and bones. So it's all fairly straightforward. The fish I just decided to use, I think that's Space Wolves Grey that I've used on there, and then just dot the eye. And I think that actually is a really nice effect. I'm looking forward to having these on the table. As I've already said, the attention to detail on these is really nice, and you could put 2 of these together like I am here and have like a nice long table. This is going to give you lots of options for your tabletops. So yeah, we've got some nice bread as well, and I don't know what I painted those as. I don't know, maybe there's some potato. Oh well, no, there won't be potatoes, will they? No, they won't be potatoes. Maybe there's some kind of roasted nuts or something like that they've got in there. Here we have all our sort of individual scenery elements, which are very usable as loot if you are using these for pillage. But obviously, if you're using these for, you know, just general scenery, these are really nice and can be used as various scatter terrain. These sacks were quite easy to paint. So over a white undercoat, I just very simply covered them in Agros Dunes contrast paint, and then I just used any of one of the leather speed paints to pick out the strap, and then I just dry brushed them with a buff colour, and I just did that, and they all went together very, very easily, very quickly. The details on the barrels are quite nice. I like it that the sort of like the straps and the metal strapping on there, it actually sort of reflects the time period. I can't believe I'm actually sitting here talking about the way that barrels are put together, but it is nice to see, and I've just tried to, you know, just give them sort of a bit of a worn look. And I've also varied the browns that I use for the base coat, just so, you know, they stood out a little bit on the tabletop. You have the chicken basket here. So this was the only one that was probably anywhere near awkward. And when I say awkward, it wasn't, you know, challenging, but, you know, you had to paint this in the basket in 2 halves and then stick the chicken on the inside. But I'm pleased with how that's come out. So that'll be something for someone to fight over. And then you have these bread baskets here. So again, I've just tried to vary the colours. I think all of these together are going to, you know, you're going to be able to put them together to make a really, really nice scene. Okay, so that's a look at all of that. Let's move on to the last section of bits. Right, okay, so here we are. This section is really the things that kind of required their own basing. So, for example, if we look at this little table here, it's quite flimsy. It's not going to stand up on its own. So I just used a 25mm washer, and I just based them on that. And I put a couple of the stools there. This is, you know, you look quite good with a couple of Vikings or Normans nearby or about to eat something or have a drink and sit down. And so I've done 2 of those. Here is the other one, and I decided not to put any tufts on the base because I figured, you know, this area would be well trodden from lots of people sitting down to have a rest. Next up, we have the cooking fires with the cooking pot and the brazier. So this again comes, you know, these come as separate pieces. So I've just tried to make it look like there's some hot coals in there and some soup in the bowl there, and this, again, I just put this on a 25mm washer. You don't have to, but I just felt it would keep everything together a little bit nicer. So you get 2 of those, and of course this is a place where you can get some source of ignition to start lighting some buildings on fire. Speaking of fire, here is one of the furnaces. Now again, this is where I have to, you know, really, you know, give kudos to Victrix and their researcher, because this really does look like a sort of Saxo-Norman furnace or oven. I've dug ones up, or the remains of ones that would have been like this. Now I've painted mine slightly differently from their example, because most of the ones that I've dug up have sort of, it's all been fired clay, but it's kind of got this sort of yellowish texture, and that, obviously that's going to be entirely based on the type of clay that is being used, and of course they will, the more they're used, the more they will discolor. So what I've done is I painted this all with sort of a beige color, and then I used dry brushing and weathering pigments to sort of try and make it look used. So I've used weathering pigments here to make it look like, you know, that ash has been raked out after it's been in use, and then I've used sort of an iron pigment around the bottom here just to sort of discolor it, and I'm really pleased with how that's come out. I think that looks very effective. Again, another source of ignition if you're trying to get those fiery brands. Now remember, you get 2 of these as well. So in this set, you kind of get 4 things that you can put on your battlefield where people can go and yeah, get some flaming torches. Finally, we have a couple of beehives. Now you could just pop these both on a table. Hang on, let me just grab one. So you could just pop them on something like this so that they are sitting on there, but to be honest, they would look fine anywhere. So there we go. That is a look at sort of a more detailed look at everything. Let's just put it all out and just see where we are. And there we go. There is the entire set all painted up and together. And this is actually my first time putting the whole of the painted lot out together. And I think it's really effective. I'm really pleased with the job I've done on these. I really am. I wanted to try and get some colour and actually have it look like, you know, it really could exist. Yeah, what can I say? There you go. You can see with this set, you're not going to need a whole lot of anything else. If you're using this for Pillage, if you got this, you would be completely set for loot tokens. Now, Victrix are going to be releasing some other sets down the line. For example, I know they've got an ecclesiastical set that they've teased, so you'll be able to loot things from churches. But if you're just looking for sort of a general setup for, you know, your towns or your villages, or even just stuff, you know, out in the countryside, you don't have to use the market stalls. Obviously, some barrels and some sacks that have been, you know, used from people who are getting in the harvest or people who are traveling. This set would do you very well. Now, this set costs £32 in total. To be honest, I think that's a fair price. I can't really see that you're going to be buying lots of these. To be honest, I think one of these is probably going to suit your needs. If you know, double this and you'd be able to fill a complete table. It would be quite nice if you were able to get some of the market stalls, you know, separately. They come on the same sprue, obviously, as all of this stuff. So you can just buy the market stall separately if you don't want more barrels and more sacks. But obviously, you'll get all of these tables as well. But this is certainly going to do me, and I will be using these in our next Pillage game. Overall, I think my favorite thing out of here still is the cheese board, and also I'm gonna have to say I do like the furnaces. I think those are really, really cool, but I think maybe that's just me as an archaeologist. I just really like the attention to detail across the whole set, to be fair. Now, the last thing I want to bring attention to is that Victrix, along with Guillaume, have released a scenario to go with this set. Now, this is available for free over on the Victrix website, and I'll leave a link to that down below. You have to, you know, just put in your details, click purchase, but it doesn't charge you anything, and then you'll get the download link. And this scenario is basically called Hecatomb, Mayhem in the Marketplace. And in this scenario, basically, two gangs start duking it out in a market. It's not designed to for sort of, you know, Normans v Saxons. Both the attacker and defender are going to be choosing some generic army lists on 150 gold piece army budget. You can't have anything special apart from a chief, and people are only allowed shields and spears. And basically, these two rival gangs turn up and just start having at it in the market. It's a 6-turn game, and then the goal of both the gangs is to inflict as much damage as possible on their opponent, and you get 1 point for each opponent's loss. So it's very, very simple. However, Guillaume has put in rules in there for interacting with the barrels, so you can throw some of the barrels at people. You can also lob grain sacks across at people, and, you know, just, you know, basically move things around. You can also interact with the market stalls, where you get a supply of projectiles such as apples and bread and stuff. And then if they do that, you can then sort of, you know, set them on fire as well, like you can with everything in Pillage. So yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I might try and convince one of the others to see if we can have a go at this. But there we go. If you go over and have a look at that on the website, then why not? It's great to see that there's you know, ongoing support, and I know Victrix have some things planned for the future. Anyway, as normal, I will leave up some photos of this lot at the end, so please stick around and have a look at that. Thank you to Victrix for sending this over for me to have a look at, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video of me essentially babbling on about bread, chickens and cheese, and of course historical accuracy when it comes to Saxo-Norman furnaces. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to it, and I will see you all again in another one soon. So take care of yourselves. Bye bye.